Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Cabral Concept. We're here with a brand new week of the show. Great to be here with you. Excited to start off the week with this brand new topic. One of the things that I've been wanting to share with you lately is just more of the lessons that a lot of people learn much later in their life. Maybe it's in their 40s, 50s. A lot of times it's not until their 70s, maybe even 80s at the end of their life that they're saying, wow, I wish that I knew these things when I was 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, whatever it might be, when there was more time in order to be able to take advantage of youth or energy or the first 2/3 of our life. So a lot of times there are some great postings on social media, and it's okay. These, dozen people were interviewed at the end of their life. Here's what they typically say. And I love those as well. But I also want to look at this from a practical standpoint, because sometimes it's all about, oh, well, you should do this more, like whatever the thing is, insert whatever that is. And it's just not realistic all of the time. And that's simply not shared with people, meaning like, of course, you'd probably like to spend all of your time doing what you love. Maybe it's traveling, or maybe it's all of the time with your children, or all of the time with your partner or spouse. And like, you want to spend more time with them. I get it. I understand that. But we also do live in the real world. So that's why I want to bring the real world into it, because, if you don't have the means to spend all of your time traveling, well, you're not going to be able to spend all of your time traveling, right? So I want to look at this from a little bit more of a real world perspective. I love the Mondays to be motivational. There's no doubt about it. But we also have to get in the mindset of success. And the mindset of success is understanding and knowing and believing that you can achieve anything. But the anything, right? The anything is your goals, what you want to achieve. We need to say, okay, if you want those big goals, well, we have to trade something for it. And so we're going to be talking about that a little bit here today. I've titled this so don't learn these 5 lessons too late in life. So I'm always going back every single week saying, okay, what am I missing? How can I get better? And again, not getting down on myself like I used to back in the day, but now trying to be a little bit more supportive of myself, right? I need to support me. If I'm not going to support me, who is? And so that's really how I look at it, and never letting a week go by without kind of keeping the main thing. So let's get into it. The number one, the first lesson that we need to keep in the forefront of our mind is this, because it's the most difficult. It's that what you do today pays dividends later in life. So let's think about that. Let's think about it from the perspective we don't want to think about it first, but it's also from a negative perspective. For example, if you are eating poorly, not getting a lot of sleep, in argumentative relationships, you're not moving your body, right? What is that going to lead to? Well, it's going to lead to poor health, being out of shape, being stressed, becoming diseased, all in the future. How closely will that come in the future? Well, it really depends on how poorly you're taking care of all of the main areas of your life right now. And again, I'm not here to judge you. I don't even want you to judge yourself, but I want you to take an inventory of the areas that you're doing well in life and the areas that you're not doing well. And if you're not doing well in them, you do have to look at it, which is called a negative future projecting, as to if you don't move your body and you're gaining weight, we know that leads to inflammation, and we know inflammation is in 90% or implicated in 90% of all disease. Well, it's going to lead to some type of dis-ease in the body or mind, maybe 6 months from now, maybe a year, maybe 10 years, but that's the path. So we need to look at that. However, I approach the situation, the subject, a little bit differently as well. I like to say, okay, what are my main objectives? What are my main goals? And if my main goals are health, for example, I need to say, okay, well, what is the food that I'm eating right now? 9 out of 10 meals. Is it on point? Is it where it should be? Am I exercising more days than not each week? Am I getting my around 8 hours or so of sleep every single night consistently? Am I getting in bed around 9:30, 10 p.m. at night? What am I doing in my relationships with family, with friends, with my 2 daughters, with my wife? How am I taking care of those? What am I doing for overall stress in my job? Do I love my job like I did 6 months ago, a year ago? If not, can I change these things? And so that's really what I'm asking you to do, is simply to look at what are you doing right now? Because it's difficult when you have a goal and they're lofty goals. Like, for example, someone wants to overcome an autoimmune issue. It doesn't happen overnight, but the things that you do today and tomorrow eventually get you where you want to be 3 months, 6 months from now, which is being dis-ease free, right? What about 100 pounds of weight loss? Well, it's not a bad thing that you can't lose all 100 pounds in a month. And here's why. Because you need to learn the lessons, not in a negative way, but learn the lessons as to what works for your body in order for you to be able to lose the weight. Because after you've learned the lessons, you're most likely not going back, because you understand what your body does and how it works now and how it's able to keep the weight off. And that's a really beautiful thing. It is, because you've learned now about your bioindividuality. You know how sensitive you are to certain foods, to eating before bed, to not moving your body. So you get to learn these things, right? Or maybe you have your goals set on a career. Like, I work with a lot of health coaches, integrative health practitioners. They're working in another job right now. They said, I would love to be a part-time or full-time certified health coach. Great. Well, okay, you need to study, you need to get your certifications first, then you kind of need to develop your business, even if it's part-time or full-time, and that's going to take some time. But when you do, well, look at the career that you're going to have. But all of these things, all these, they're glamorous goals, so they're great goals to have. But it's non-glamorous activities that take place every single day that get you to that glamorous goal. So what I want you to look at is that it's what you do that's really boring, that are just daily repetitive tasks, like eating the right foods for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, moving your body for 30 minutes a day, getting your 10,000 steps, right? Like, it's going to bed at a healthy bedtime. And it's all of these things, right? Studying for 30 minutes a day. That's what gets you to your goals. So just think about it this way. The big goals that you have all manifest themselves by doing the daily mundane tasks that allow you over time to achieve what you want to achieve. All right? So don't get down yourself if one day you're not already there, because it takes days on top of days, and it's the consistency that pays off. Number 2 is this, that no matter how bad your life situation right now, in terms of health, in terms of body transformation, in terms of family or relationships, in terms of spirituality, in terms of career, that things will get better. Now, they'll get better for 2 reasons. One is that in time, as I'm sure that you've heard before, time heals all wounds. Now, I don't know that it always heals all wounds, but what it does is it allows you to look back with more perspective. It allows you to look back with a little bit more of a gentler mindset, a little bit of a gentler heart, and that enables you to see situations differently. I know that that's certainly been the way in my life for sure as well. But also, and this goes back to the first lesson that we just learned, is that if your situation is not good right now, you can only control what you can control, and what you can control, you should work on. And you do work on that daily with whatever you can do to improve your finances, improve your relationship, improve your health, improve your body, improve your spirituality. And you can do that by simple things on a daily basis. So that was number 2. And it's a big one, because when I was sick for a decade and I would relapse after relapse after relapse, I lost hope more times than I could possibly count. But what I realized many years later is that I continued to just simply put one foot in front of the other, and eventually I learned enough lessons to get well. And so really now looking back, I can also say, if I had never gotten sick, I wouldn't be where I am today. I might be more lost than where I am today, because right now I found my calling. And I believe that I've learned a lot that will hopefully make me a better father, a better husband, someone that's able to provide more service to the world, because I at least know something that I put in, not just my 10,000 hours, but 20 plus years of my life, about 25 years of my life. And now I'm able to try to pass that on to others as well. So sometimes your greatest challenges in life can really be the things that propel you the most. Number 3 is this. The third lesson is sacrifice is essential. And in about a month or so from now, I'm going to do a podcast just on this topic, because sacrifice in today's day and age is really looked down upon. You want to do everything that you can not to have to sacrifice anything in your life. It's like, well, we're always looking for the shortcut, the hack, all of those things. Well, it's kind of funny because so has every other human for eternity, right? for as long as we know, humans have always been trying to find the shortcut. And sometimes there's good shortcuts. Now, it's never a hack per se that comes back to bite you. That's the big thing, right? You can manipulate your diet or you manipulate your exercise in a way like they've done right on The Biggest Loser in order to lose weight quickly. But we know that 90+% of those contestants gain the weight back. Well, why was that? Well, you can't exercise. I mean, they have them exercising for 6 hours a day. They have men eating 1,600 calories and they have the women eating 1,200 calories. Now, it may have changed in this day now. I don't know. I don't follow the show anymore. But I can tell you that 6 hours a day of exercise and that little calories is unsustainable for most humans. So that's not sustainable. So that's a hack that's not going to work. But what will work are rebalancing the body from a hormonal-based process, looking at the thyroid, looking at the adrenals, looking at the cell membrane receptors, all of the different things that allow people to lose weight the healthy way, right? So that's what matters. But typically, in order to achieve a real goal, right, a goal that's a little bit extraordinary, that means that not everybody's going to achieve it, and that's because not everyone is willing to put in that sacrifice. And the sacrifice means that you're going to have to sacrifice something now in order to gain something else in the future. Now, a lot of people look at this as a negative. Well, what, I mean, you have to sacrifice. This isn't good because it means you have to give something up. Yes. You need to discern, though, and decide what your sacrifice is. Because, again, I'm going to talk about this in about a month or so from now. But everybody's making a sacrifice on a daily basis. If you decide to go out with your friends, have a good time, and not work on your health overall or your body, well, that's going to be a sacrifice that you're sacrificing your health, right? Or let's say that you decide to go with your friends and you really should be maybe putting in some study or some education because you want to advance yourself in your career. All right, well, you're going to sacrifice your career by going out with your friends more often than maybe you should now. And now, again, it doesn't mean, and I'll get to this towards the end, that you can't go out with friends and have a good time. But we also have to decide that your career, your health, your body transformation, your spirituality, your relationships, they all take time. They all take effort, and that leads to sacrifice because we can't do everything all at once. That's the big thing. So what we have to say is, how important is our goal? And the more important it is, well, the more time and energy have to shift there. Because we've decided that this is the most important thing that we need to focus on. Or maybe that's why I always say this, you can't have really more than 1 or 2 or maybe 3 maximum big goals at a time. Because you only have so much energy, so much time, so much effort that you can put into these things. So you have to be careful with how many goals that you set for yourself, how many visions you create, because you can accomplish all of them, but just not all at the same time. And remember, the more sacrifice you put into something, the more likely it is to happen and the faster it will most likely happen. However, you just have to be careful because too much sacrifice in one area will, of course, lead to sacrifices in others in terms of the balance that you create. But if you're talking about like the best in the world at a sport, it's a good example. Olympic athletes, we just had the Olympics take place. They sacrifice almost everything to be the very best. They're training for hours a day. It's their full-time job. Their next full-time job is how they eat. Their next full-time job after that is how they sleep, right? So they may sacrifice, and I've heard this from many Olympic athletes, because I've worked with many Olympic athletes, that they sacrifice relationships, that they sacrifice their family time, they sacrifice friendships, because they're giving their all to one thing. Again, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, but it's a choice they made. And to be great at that one thing, and if you're talking about the highest level in the world, Olympic athletes, well, it's a great sacrifice. But again, you have to decide, is that worth it? And what sacrifice is worth it to you? All right, the fourth lesson is this, is that quality in life. It's all about quality is what counts. A lot of us like to look at quantity. It's, how many things can we learn? It's not what matters. One of the best examples is this, how many followers do you have on social media? I honestly, that really doesn't matter. And people, I mean, companies know this too. Like, well, companies hire a lot of influencers per se, right? And what they look at is not the number of followers you have, but the actual engagement. And I love that this is what we're looking at because, if you have 100,000 followers online, fantastic. But can you really connect with 100,000 people? It's very difficult, right? Very difficult. Are you actually answering their direct messages when they message you? Are you giving them guidance when they reach out to you? So this is, I think, something to look at in life overall. Most people should probably strive for 50 to 100 real relationships in their life. After that, there's a specific number I'll get into in the future. You start to dilute the quality of those relationships. It doesn't mean that you can't know more people. Like, I'm a part of certain groups, and there's about 100 people in the group. And maybe out of the 100 people I know and really chat with like 40 to 50 of those people quite well. And I see them a couple times a year, and they're great people. But then, I have different relationships at different levels, and the different relationships at different levels, the deeper the level, you can have less relationships. Because again, what does it come down to? Time, effort, energy. You want to be following up with these people. And for a lot of people, it's like, okay, what am I doing in terms of my follow-up with my children or my parents or my grandparents or what siblings, whatever it might be, in order for you to have great and deep quality relationships. So whether it's the work that you do, the relationships that you keep, really focus on the quality of that food. My mind right now is on food. It is on health. It is on exercise, of course, because that is my forte. And what I was going to say, so I might as well bring it up now, is that when you look at your overall food intake as well, it's all about quality, not quantity. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, I need, I'm going to have this big salad. But the truth is that if you focus on more organic vegetables and organic-based nutrients, you actually get more nutrients out of organic food from a micronutrient level, not macro, but micro, than out of conventional-based food. So you have to understand it really in all aspects of your life, even eating, that quantity is not as powerful as quality. Always focus on the quality. And the last lesson is this, and I always go back to this because this is how you personalize your life, how you make it your own. So I'm always talking about bioindividuality in terms of health, and that's because we're all human, yes. And we all need certain foundational protocols, yes. But we need tweaks to all protocols based on our bioindividuality. So when we look at this, we have to understand is that when we look at, I like to say, at the end of your life, right? Let's say you're 100 years old. You look back at life and you simply ask yourself, what's going to matter? And so you have to ask it from that point at 100 years old, what did I care about most in life? What really meant the most to me? And you're going to get different answers based on the individual, but even right now at 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, you're going to be able to answer that. You will. If you really look deep down inside of yourself, you will know the answer. As long as you're not trying to say, well, this is the right answer. No. Don't think about the right answer. Think about what your gut tells you, what your heart tells you. What is the answer, right? What's the answer? For me, I have two things, and they're always pulling me in two different directions. I always say what matters to me the most is my relationships with my family and specifically my two daughters, my wife. That's always what's going to pull me in one direction. And it's always going to say, did I spend enough time with them? Did I teach them the relevant lessons that I believe that they need to know as children in order to be healthy adults? That's always what I'm asking myself. But then in the opposite direction, I'm also saying that not about the money. It's not about that. It's not about fame. It's not about any of those things. I don't seek any of those things. But I ask myself, did I give what I could to the health-based field, to the industry of integrative health, in order to be able to teach the next generation what I know to be the truth, what I know to work? And so for me, it's always been very clear that those are the two things. Even before I had children, I said, I'm not going to have kids until my 30s, until I learn more lessons, until I become more stable of an individual in order to then be a good father to them. Now, not everybody needs to have that philosophy or do that, and I'm only one individual. That's why I say to you, look back on your life. What's going to matter? Because a lot of people, it might be being a top athlete. It might be developing a company, a career. Like that might be their gift, their calling. And there's not for any of us to say that that's not good, that that's not what it should be. I just know what my specific calling is from me, at least. And those are the two directions that I need to focus then the majority of my life. And so what I also say as well, how much time do you really have? How much time can you dedicate right now to each of those? And so what I try to do that is also weigh it again as in the phase of life that you're in. I've gone over that on previous shows before. I'll certainly talk about it more in the future. But if you do have children, it is that phase. And I know it's difficult to balance, and that's where we go back to balance and sacrifice. I can only sacrifice so much time to give my daughters and my family the life that they want, right? And that they deserve, and that they want their father around, all of those things. And then I have to say, okay, but I also need this much time for my work. So what you start to do is you say, okay, I look back and I say, if I dedicate this much time to family and this much time to the industry of health and of integrative health, then I'll say, all right, maybe I wasn't perfect, and I'm sure I won't be. And I know that I'm not to this day, but I'm always aware and I'm always doing my best. And really that's the best that we can ask out of ourselves in life. So hopefully this was helpful. These 5 lessons are at least 5 of what I feel are to be some of the most important that you just don't want to learn too late in life. So if this was helpful, please, of course, do pass this along to anybody else you believe it could serve. And I will be back very shortly again, talking more about the balance of sacrifice in our life and how to improve every area that we believe we need to be a success in. So take care, everyone, and I'll talk with you tomorrow.